Good morning, everyone. 11 EST here in Chicago, and on behalf of Beyondsoft as well as Nu10 team, we welcome everybody who has joined this webinar today with us. Uh, we will be talking about remote patient monitoring as one of the platform that we both Beyondsoft and Nu10 takes to our customers. And there is a lot of details that we'll be talking in next maybe 20-30 minutes. But before we go further, I'm just looking at all these people who have joined from different regions. And I can see some of the attendees have joined right from Bangalore all the way to Brazil, as well as people who have joined from Chicago all the way to Pune. So thank you. Thanks a lot for everyone joining. And I believe looking at the different time zones, it is good morning, good evening, and maybe late evening for some of you. So thanks a lot for taking time to join this webinar. As part of the webinar, we will be recording this discussion and it will be available on demand so that you can later look into the details if you want, and you can reach out to any of us for any further clarifications or questions. Now, without further ado, let me do one thing. Let me introduce everybody who is on panel. So let's go to the first slide, and I have my guests as well as co-panelists here, Mohit and Funny. Let me ask Mohit. Mohit, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Sure. Thanks, Anuj. So hi, everyone. I am Mohit, and I bring over 2 decades of experience in healthcare technology and consulting space. My journey began as in an early stage investment firm and eventually led me to found Manthan, a company specializing in pharmaceutical analytics, technology, and consulting space, specific focus on commercialization. In my last 3 years, at Nu10, we are developing products that are helping uh, medical device companies go to market faster and allowing them to prioritize some key factors for commercial success. And thank you for the opportunity to be on this webinar.
Thank you, Mohit. Funny, why don't we go next to you? You are on mute, Funny.
My apologies. I've been talking with the mute on. Thank you so much. Right. Greetings. I'm Funny there. You can call me PA or Funny. Other people like talking about. With over 24 years of experience in the core technology area, I thrive. I thrive on pushing the boundaries of data engineering. My passion lies in crafting products using cutting-edge tech stacks, constantly seeking ways to innovate and optimize performance. In my journey over the last 2 decades, I found immense joy in building solutions that not only meet current demands, but also anticipate future needs in the ever-evolving tech landscape. Thank you, Anuj, for having the opportunity for us to present in this panel together.
Thank you, Funny. And thank you, Mohit, for joining us in this webinar today. Last but not the least, if I talk about myself, I'll be brief. Anuj Srivastav, responsible for the sales in North America. My focus is always on customer relationships and customer services. And we'll talk more about how we together, Beyondsoft and Nu10, will be working for our patients to the benefit of our patients and to make them more successful. So let's do one thing. While we did the introductions, Mohit, why don't you talk a little more about Nu10 and gives our audience some idea about what you guys do, because I know you guys do a lot of things, but let's be a little brief and give some perspective of Nu10 to audiences.
Sure. We are a relatively young firm, 3 years into business. We work at confluence of some very interesting technologies in the area of wearables, data engineering, as well as in the area of blockchain. So these are areas that we work and try to bring new solutions to the market. We are a specific product and data engineering firm, and over this past 3 years, we have done some amazing work around one of the work that you are seeing, building up the RPM framework. Our core expertise lies in data sciences, analytics, and the data engineering space. So we are currently focusing on building the foundational infrastructure, which is essential for the med device industry, right? And yeah, so that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mohit. That's interesting. While you talked about Newton, if I just give a glimpse of what all Beyondsoft does for the benefit of our audience, I'll say that we have been in the business for last 3 decades and close to $1 billion revenue with more than 30,000 people. We are truly global in nature, right from our global headquarter in Singapore, as well as we have offices in more than 15 countries. And I can see some of our colleagues have joined from India, Singapore, as well as Brazil on this webinar. And the way we serve our customers is more technology driven, where we work with our partners to bring those technology platforms for the benefit of our customers, as well as help them scale in different geographies at all. So this is one of, I'll say, a joint webinar that you are looking into today. And we plan to do many such webinars in coming months, where our customers as well as prospects will get a glimpse of how Beyondsoft works with many of their partners to bring the best or the latest technology platforms and services for their benefit. With that, let's move further and let's talk about this remote patient monitoring platform. So Mohit, my question will be to you. Remote patient monitoring has been there in the industry for maybe last 2-3 decades, correct? So when you say next gen remote patient monitoring platform, what exactly you mean here?
Sure. I think, yes, as you rightly said, RPM is not something which is new, which was born yesterday. It has been in existence for a while. But if you see the advances that are happening in the technology space, there is on one side, there is miniaturization of sensors, of imaging technologies. On the second side, that you see, patients and healthcare providers alike, they are moving to, what you call as connected health. So there are journeys that a patient will start at maybe a clinical setting and continue in a home setting and resume that back in a clinical setting. So there are those journeys where you need to connect these places wherever a patient is essentially taking care, or whichever be the point of care. So these are things that are happening. Third is that patients are getting used to connected health. I think we are not very far away from a future where you would be seeing that a patient would have a dashboard of his or her health right in front of them, right, where they can log in and they can see how their vitals are performing. Are they prone to some diseases more than the others? What their path is, and how they can take both preventive as well as curative steps for this. Now, all of these trends have come at a time where now technology is there which can handle sub-second latencies. There's a technology which can manage all these myriad of data which is flowing in, and this is the tech stack that we are working with and enabling device manufacturers as well as providers to build those journeys that patients are coming to expect and get to the market faster. So what you are seeing, or what you're going to see in the webinar, is a completely new age tech stack which is enabling all of these features and confluence of multiple parameters that are coming up to make journey enriching and improve health outcomes for the patients.
That's wonderful, Mohit. So let me take a step back and say that, hey, when we look at ourselves in these in today's world, we are surrounded with all these different devices, right from Apple watches to our Garmin to smart beds and all. So many these devices keep generating a lot of data, correct? And I believe when we talk about anything monitoring, not just remote patient monitoring, there is a lot of these data, a lot of these millions of data packets that get generated. And I was reading about this article which talks about so much of data getting generated, correct? And one of the things that we look for is what would be the features that as a company you guys have built in this platform. Can you talk a little more about where we understand the features and the audience who is there, they look at from their perspective. So that will be great if you can talk more about that, Mohit.
Sure, sure, we'll do that. So if you see from a features perspective, of course, there is the real-time tracking, which is at the heart of it. Now, the platform that we have built essentially is, enables the continuous collection of vital signs. So, for instance, you said there are variables, there are, multiple sensors that are there, and every time they are collecting a lot of data. These real-time, tracking features enable services which could be like a cardiac telemetry. These are also used for emergency response during either pre-op or post-op monitoring. So there are multiple, use cases that essentially, real-time tracking can enable. It can also enable remote patient care where providers are always finding difficult to reach out to. All right. There have been instances, where some of this work that we have done, one of the clients that we built the RPM for, they actually put out these patches, and we maybe see a case study of that in areas which are earthquake, where there was an earthquake, right? And these patches were being used by the physicians sitting elsewhere to see who needed critical care. Now, these are, amazing things which one could not have imagined maybe a few years back, right? And this is all possible because of real-time tracking. The other important bits, of course, that you see is analytics and reporting, right? Where the platform can help identify the trends in patient symptoms and health parameters to give some, insights into how the disease is progressing or how the health status of a patient is progressing. It also provides dashboards at different level. So physician could be, seeing a patient and can go deeper and see granularity of patient data, whereas someone at a nursing station could be looking at a cockpit of all the patients in the wards, and a patient could be looking at a completely different view about themselves. So these are very important journeys, that different ways and different analytics that all the stakeholders consume. The third bit that you see here is alerts and notifications. Again, very critical from an emergency response perspective. If something is going out of thresholds, then the platform allows for flag these, and these can essentially these are responses for tailored to individual patient needs. And these could be, again, in, let's say, real-time monitoring in mobile cardiac telemetry, right? It can issue an alert if the heart rate is going below a certain limit for a certain span of time, right? So these are immensely useful for life-saving scenarios. Then, of course, security and configurations of how to meet compliances, strict compliances set by FDA. So the platform essentially meets all FDA and HIPAA compliances. The fifth bit that you see is communication. The platform facilitates communication between patients, the healthcare providers, as well as between the healthcare providers and the machines themselves. So it's a two-way communication. For an active device, a physician could very well feed what is the dosage, for example, and the class 2 or class 3 medical device could actually be using that as an input variable while managing patient care. The last bit here, but equally important, is interoperability, because physicians or any healthcare providers needs to see a comprehensive view. So not only are you looking at the data which is coming in from med devices, but you're also integrating this with EHR, EMR data, and it also allows for data to be pushed into different systems. So imagine it being pipes of data coming in from different systems, and then based upon the what the ML algorithms, what the analytics turns out, it can go as outputs, or it can push some of this data into systems which can consume this. So it provides interoperability amongst various systems.
Thanks, Mohit. I believe interoperability is the right segue to take a pause here and look at uh, RPM platform, because when we talk about so many of these features that we are built as part of platform, I'm sure there will be a very scalable tech stack behind that, correct? Which includes some artificial intelligence, cloud, and a lot more things. So, Funny, my question will be to you. If you can take us through the technical architecture that is powering this platform. And you are on mute, Funny. Yeah.
Thank you. Right. Thanks, Anuj. Right. So the architecture looks a little overwhelming, but it is not. It just way to represent the different components. The interesting thing here was to ensure that we build a tech stack which uses the modern available technologies together, and to be able to process a lot of data. So one such thing that Anuj talked about earlier was millions of records, right? So just to give a context, today our platform for one of the clients processes about 180 million data packets per minute. I repeat, 180 million data packets per minute across devices used all over the world, right? So, and the impressive thing here is the fact that how do you keep, and these are life-saving devices, right? So how do you ensure that the data is kept concurrent? How do you ensure that the alerts are sent out in real time? So we were looking for a stack that will actually work with this kind of information coming through the process. So our platform is a SaaS-based solution. It is designed to collect and process large volumes of patient vital signs, and it's collected through wearable devices or sensors, and it provides real-time insights into their health conditions, right? So with Mohit alluded to earlier, RPM is typically used by healthcare providers for the following reasons. One, it is early detection of health problems, improved patient outcomes, efficient use of resources, thereby enabling and reduced healthcare costs, increased patient engagement and satisfaction, better disease management and chronic conditions, and monitoring patients in ICU and post-operative recovery, right? So some of the quick highlights of the architecture are our quick deployment process because of the availability of pre-built components. So the ones highlighted in blue, dark blue in the diagram here are all pre-built components that can be used to fasten the deployments, right? So and this platform supports data from small clinics and to home setups as well as large hospitals. So if you talk about the data flow, right, from a hospital's perspective, a patient's wearable devices are integrated with the hospital relay servers and Wi-Fi networks for the data transmission. In a home or clinic setup, the wearable devices will transmit using the patient's BLE network. So data is collected at the devices and ingested into message queues via the MQTT protocol. Whereas the data from other systems like the EHR, EMR, or admissions or lab reports, which are typically sent across in HL7 format, are ingested into the via the Kafka queues. Right. So and the data processing and the analytics engine form the core layer of the architecture, which is the I don't know if you can see the mouse moving, but which says 4 here on the screen. Right. So the raw data from the source systems undergoes a validation process based on pre-configured rules, which are actually set basis the needs of hospitals or healthcare providers. Similarly, exceptions are also pre-configured. Machine learning analytics models for anomaly detection and disease predictions are developed and trained from the model and data available in the data lake. Right. So following successful validation checks, data is further cleansed and enriched, and then stored in Apache Iceberg, which is right here. Apache Iceberg is an open source, high performance format for huge analytic tables. Data is also stored in Apache Druid, to enable real-time data analysis. What is Apache Druid? Apache Druid is a high-performance real-time analytics database that delivers sub-second queries at scale and under load. Okay. Iceberg also serves as a source for data exploration and analytical model development and training. Trino is used as a query engine to process data from Iceberg. Trino is an open source distributed SQL query engine designed to query very, very large data sets. Okay. Any abnormalities or events generated based on ML algorithms developed are sent as alerts and notifications to respective HCPs. A web application can further be developed for the hospital staff to centrally monitor and track patients' vitals for any changes in status or emergency situations. Mobile apps of patients can also be developed, wherein the patients or their respective caretakers can monitor and track the vitals for any changes in patient conditions. Reports and dashboards can also be developed for hospital staff to monitor the development level, department level, and other filters as per what the recipient chooses to look at. Right. This solution enables HCPs, hospital staff, and patient caretakers to monitor patients' vitals in real time or near real time remotely for early diagnosis and intervention, thereby preventing emergencies or code blue situations.
Thanks, Funny. So Funny, I believe looking at the tech stack and the kind of passion you have for technology, I'm sure you can talk about this tech stack for next 2 hours. But looking at the time we have kept for webinar today, let me now flip this question to Mohit, saying that, Mohit, if I look at number of participants that we have, I can see people from hospital systems as well as medical device manufacturers here, correct? So what will be your message in terms of when you talk about components of this platform to some of your audiences?
Sure. So I think one of the key things that we see, amongst how these med device companies or hospitals could use is this RPM platforms out of the box supports class 2 medical devices. And I think that's a very important thing, because much of the devices which are coming up, which are really replacing the old therapies, are class 2 and class 3, right, which are moderate or high risk according to FDA. And this platform out of the box supports up to class 2 for sure, and we can work with class 3 as well. So that's one. The second bit that you see is on the data engineering side, and as Funny spoke about earlier, it is we are able to capture, do real-time processing of data, and do anomaly detection. Now, this is critical for, as I said, emergency response. The techniques that we have used here, involve noise filtering, cleansing, algorithm development for identifying some abnormal patterns, signal processing, and so on and so forth. So I think these are some very key things which have been put in and they are configurable, right, according to the use case, which actually make the journey very rich and brings all the features that you would want for a healthcare provider. For example, recommendations on what could be the next potential step are available for med device company or a hospital to provide to the providers, right? The third bit that you see is cloud storage. So it is cloud agnostic, so you could put it on any of the cloud providers that one uses, and we comply with all the data norms with regard to data storage and data access. The fourth bit is the communication channel. So it supports all popular communication in terms of BLE or Wi-Fi. Funny earlier spoke about relay servers, which are put by the hospitals themselves, so it can easily work on the existing hospital infrastructure and be able to push all this data up to the cloud. The other bits, of course, is the diagnostic apps. So I think which is what the patients and the healthcare providers interact with. So these hospital apps can allow for for the physicians to provide a richer experience to patients, to be able to control how the data flows back to devices and so on and so forth. And last is on the security compliance. So it is HIPAA and FDA compliant, again, which accelerates crossing over the regulatory moat for any of these device manufacturers or providers.
Thanks, Mohit. So, Mohit and Funny, thank you for sharing all these technical and details that I'm sure will be very useful for many of the participants who are here in audience. Now, let me ask this question, saying we talked about all the theory, we talked about all the technicalities. How about sharing some experience, maybe without naming the client? Why don't you give an idea about a case study that talks about what we have done together? Mohit, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, so this is a case study of a wearable biosensor. As you can see, it's a class 2 medical device. It has multiple sensors in it, which are for two-channel ECGs. It also has temperature, skin temperature, and oxygen monitoring, and so on and so forth. Now this device which was built, we have now this can actually be used in two purposes. One, it can be used for live monitoring of patients. Imagine, as I told you earlier, could be in remote areas, or it could be in an a post-operative or pre-operative setting, right? So post-operative, when a person is out of operation and they are in ward under observation, that is, by the way, when most of the code blues happen, right? So this really brings down the code blues because at a nursing station level, now they don't need to go to they no longer go to the patients to monitor their vitals, but they have everything along with alerts set up on their monitoring station. So they can really know and provide emergency response wherever there's an alert or they see something out of order. Now for this whole setup, the ECG patches, we have essentially set up the whole data engineering framework where our platform has been used and it has been customized to the needs and is powering, as Funny earlier said, about 180 million data packets flowing in every minute across millions of patches and providing multiple journeys, be it on the Holter monitoring side or be it on the live monitoring that a healthcare provider may be doing, or for a physician to look at their patient data in aggregate and see how a patient has been, how their vitals have been moving. Yeah, so this is what it is. One of the fine case studies of this RPM platform's implementation.
Thank you, Mohit. So this is very helpful. You want to add anything more funny about this particular
So
case study?
one typical use case which has been really useful now is one of the hospitals which was implemented. They've been using it right from the person's call to the ER, where the patch is being applied, and the same patient goes from the ambulance to the OT to the recovery room without having to change any of the attachments for the monitoring, right? The same patch, and that's been really really useful because the doctor waiting for the patient to come in, it has this information. The dashboard you see on the screen right now has information about this person even without the person coming in, right, admitted into the hospital. So the amount of data that's available has really helped them prevent code blues in this where it was deployed. And it was and this and what you have done for them as in terms of the near real time and in terms of the latency that we have been to address has really helped them.
Thanks, Funny. So I'm sure there are a lot more details and use cases, both Mohit and Funny, you will like to discuss with our audiences. But looking at the time today, we have maybe let's quickly look into some of the challenges or things that you want to highlight, Mohit and Funny, and maybe we have just 2 more minutes.
Okay. So maybe I'll take up a couple of these points, right? As we have reiterated earlier, on the performance and scalability side. So this is able to handle huge data volumes. So as the devices find acceptance in the market, as well as as providers start using it, so this platform can easily help scale up to millions of patches, millions of patients using it simultaneously. Second is, low latency, right? Where you're talking about, uh, very, very low latency specifically for, which is vital for class 2 medical devices and class 3 medical devices, right? Which is, and, the whole idea is that, how do you accelerate, going to the market? How do you accelerate your development? Because the core of, what a medical device company or a provider is trying to do is trying to build those journeys for patients and physicians and bring out that analytics, right? Whereas, what we have, is, sits very nice as a foundational layer on top of which, healthcare providers or device manufacturers can build the journey the way they like, right? Yeah, so these are something, very, very important. You also see signal processing, right? Because it's very important to how do you remove noise from all the signals that you're receiving from these med devices. And Funny also spoke about earlier, when he was showing the technical architecture. Yeah, so these are some of the key things that I think the audience may want to know.
Thank you, Mohit, and thank you, Fanik. With this, I'll say that we are very much at the end of our webinar today. I can see there are one or two questions in the chat, but I don't think we will be having time today. So what we'll do is we'll update the deck with all these questions that we have received, as well as on this, you can see the email IDs of Mohit, Fani, as well as myself. We welcome any of the questions that anybody from the participant side, if they have, you can directly reach out to us. This webinar is recorded and it will be available on demand, and we'll be glad to answer any questions from the audience in our subsequent webinars. Thank you very much for everyone for joining. I believe again it is pretty late in Bangalore, Pune, as well as I'll say some other geographies where our participants and audiences have joined. On behalf of Beyondsoft and Nu10 team, we thank you for your participation, and we'll see you again in our next webinar.